Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Okay, we're down to the 12th knife that I'll be showing in the StoneWorx series, and that's the RR2402, and that is the Canoe. Now, the Canoe is probably one of the more popular patterns out there for collectors and users alike, simply because of the blade options and the feel in the pocket, and also just the usability of the knife. And indeed, it often shows up in people's top 5 patterns of traditional pattern knives that they like to carry. For the longest time, the Canoe was even one of my top 5s. It's drifted down to around 6 or 7 in the favorite category, but even that says something about the Canoe, that it is a very popular pattern of knife. So why was this the 12th one that I picked up in the StoneWorx series and not something a little earlier? Because quite frankly, there were other knives in that series that were not a top 5 pattern for me. Well, the main reason is because, first of all, large toothpick. I had to get one of those first. Actually, when I picked this one up, I picked up my 4th large toothpick. So that tells you something about me and my knife buying habits. But also there was the bow trapper, the hawkbill, and the copperhead, which were not in the StoneWorx series. So I obviously went for the newest versions of knives, new versions of knives, to add to the StoneWorx collection before I started grabbing the older patterns. And well, quite frankly, this Canoe to me just does not look as good as this Canoe. So that was another thing, is like I was actually debating, do I want to get it or not, because this one basically hits it out of the park on so many levels. And this one, it just it almost seemed like an afterthought. Hey, we'll add a Canoe, and is like, okay, well, we got this abalone and pearl knife that we're working on, and I'm hoping they actually do come out with an abalone and pearl series of knives. And what you will end up seeing is basically this same knife with these same stones, except on the outside here where you see the bloody basin jasper, and we'll talk about that in a minute, you end up seeing abalone instead. And that would look a whole lot better to me than what we have here. It's almost like this was an afterthought. It seems like it needs one more synthetic stone added in here somewhere, or maybe replacing the abalone here with like the malachite or the blue turquoise, or something of that nature, or maybe adding some yellow jasper in here somewhere. But they didn't. They went with a lot of pearl, a lot of abalone, and then just a little bit of an accent of the synthetic stones. And those stones are really, to me, what set the StoneWorx series apart. The various colorful stones, and not the pearl and abalone. The pearl and abalone are nice touches, and I love to see it on the knives, but the synthetic stones is really kind of, it seemed like that was part of the whole feel of the StoneWorx line of knives. So that was the first problem, is there's already a really good Canoe in the lineup. The stone choices here just don't seem to fit as well with the other StoneWorx knives. But there was another problem that was even bigger than that, and that is I have fear of the half-stop blades on the Rough Rider canoes. The newer canoes with their half-stop, the blade pull has been so weak for so long that I really just wasn't too thrilled about it. For example, I already gave one of them away because the blade pull was so poor. Now this is the Southwest version, and this pull on this blade is like a 2 or 3. It's got a good pop to it, but that's because the pull is so weak. And you got a blade wobble going on in there too. Everything about the blade is just weak. And that one's, like I said, like a 2 or a 3. This one is like a 3 coming out. See that? No snap at all in the half stop. Coming out is like a 2 or a 3. After you get past that point, it's a 4 or a 5, maybe a 5. But the half stop is awful on it. And that's what I was expecting in this Canoe. Fortunately, they must have did something right this time, because now I have a pull on this blade that is closer to about a 4 or a 5. That's acceptable as far as I'm concerned. The rest of the way, it's about a 6. You got a pretty decent snap. Not, you can't hear it, but you do see it pop a little bit. Come on. And it does close pretty well. It falls from about there. And maybe a little further down. The back blade, that is in the 6 or 7 range. Much better pop on it and much better action on it, but it's also tighter. So, and that's because you got a smaller blade working off of the same size back spring as the main blade. But to me, the half stops on the Canoes is just remains pitiful. It's not as good as it should be, and when you compare it to the actions on the older Canoes without a half stop, yeah, no half stop, but you got a good pull on this blade, and it's about consistent throughout, and it just feels better. This one has no half stop at all. It just rolls around. Same with this one. There's no half stop at all. It just rolls around, and it's got a better action going on with it. And that's the thing with it. I find that the older Canoes with no half stops going on have better blade action than the ones that have the half stop in it. And which brings me to the sales pitch they were always working on, with half stop being a sign of quality in a knife. Well, it's only a sign of quality in the knife if it's a quality half stop, and that is the problem I have with the newer Canoes. The half stop just isn't a quality half stop. It doesn't function the way I feel it should function. There's no real snap to the half stop. It does stop, but you have to push it almost all the way into the half stop in order to get it to get there, and that just doesn't work for me. So it is here. I mean, that's the issue I have with this knife even today. But otherwise, I mean, it looks great. It just doesn't seem to fit as well into the Rough Rider lineup of StoneWorx knives. If it had a little more synthetic stone in it, maybe, either the malachite or the blue turquoise here, or replacing the middle stone here with like yellow jasper or something like that. I know a lot of people are going to say, no, it needs all that pearl. In that case, really what it needs more pearl or more abalone. Get rid of the yellow, the red, what they call agate or agate, and what I call jasper, and I'll explain that in a second. Get rid of this stone, throw in abalone, and come out with a new series of knives that is your pearl and abalone series of knives, and I would buy that in a heartbeat. But as it is with this, it just doesn't quite fit with all the other knives, because it just it lacks some other color of stone. Now, that's my own personal opinion. I know other people are going to to say, no, I'm absolutely wrong, and that is fine by me too. But now, I mentioned this agate. That's what Rough Ryder has been calling it, or Smoky Mountain Knife Works has been calling the redstone. They've been calling the redstone an agate, and the yellowstone a jasper, and the bluestone a synthetic. The problem is, agates and jasper are basically made from the same kind of stone. The difference, though, is an agate is a translucent stone, so that basically light will will pass through it, whereas jaspers are opaque. Light will not pass through them. And do you see light passing through that? No, light is not passing through that. You can't go. You see how you've got the reflection in there. That is a little bit more translucency going on in the pearl, but the agate, or what they're calling an agate, is not translucent. You can't see anything beyond the top layer of that, and that's why that is more correctly would be referred to as a jasper. And the closest jasper out there that looks like that is called Bloody Basin jasper. It's a red stone jasper that has dark green veins running through it, and it's a very pretty stone. Interesting enough, a lot of red jasper is actually green, but in any case, this is a Bloody Basin jasper, or it looks like a Bloody Basin jasper, but as currently Rough Ryder and SMKW wants to call it an agate. So that's the one that they're referring to as an agate. In any case, I really should talk more about other things on here, such as the fitment of the stones, which is really excellent. They have done a really good job with no gapping in the back springs or anything like that. The stones are really laid in there smoothly. Yeah, if you run your finger over this, you will feel every nickel silver spacer, but it's not like your fingers are catching on it. You just feel it, and it feels good actually when you do it. The pinched and threaded bolsters are done really well too. The action on the blade, well, I've already talked quite a bit about the action on the blade, but when you come right down to it, you've got a nice tight blade. There's no wobble in it or anything like that. It looks like the grind kind of matches on both sides. Same thing with the swedge. Not crazy about the swedge, but we've talked about that before. Actually, the swedge on this one definitely feels like it's deeper on the front side of the blade here, the side with the nail nick. This side is much shallower, so the swedge doesn't quite match up on this knife. Definitely feels like it's much deeper on the front side of the blade. That is this particular knife. That doesn't mean it's going to be on every Canoe. The pin blade has a definitely stronger pull, nice and tight. Same issue with the swedge, it feels like. I don't think it's even. I think it feels like the front side of the swedge is deeper than the back side. I could be totally wrong. It just feels that way. But it definitely feels deeper here. Grind looks okay. 440B stainless steel blade. You have the long match strike pull on the pin blade, so it's also known as a French pull, and also a long French pull on the main spear blade. So that's kind of cool too. I do like the long match strike pull like this, as opposed to the crescent moon style. This just looks like a much neater pull. By comparison, you can see it here. Which pull do you think looks nicer? I think the one on this knife looks better than the one on this knife. Stone-wise, I like the stones better on this one, but I really, really do hope that they just pop these red jasper out and put in a slab of abalone there and come out with an abalone and pearl series. And I would buy that up, especially if they do that with a large toothpick. But like I said, a lot of my complaints with this knife are really things that bother me personally, and they're not necessarily something that is going to translate into a problem for other people. If you are a person who loves the half stops on these knives, then this half stop is going to be just fine for you. If you are a person who loves the way these stones look on this knife, then this knife is going to be perfect for you. It is definitely a well-made knife and everything else. It's just some of the things that I'm looking for were not on this knife. And that's the way it is often with a knife. And that is also something that you're willing to settle for when you decide you want to buy the entire series. Not every knife in the series is going to be, the perfect knife for you. But the joy will be when you get the entire series together. And we'll be talking about that in a near future video now that I have all of the next generation StoneWorx knives, if only 12 of them are in that series. And then I'll also show those with all the other StoneWorx knives that I have. But something else to look at real quick here is we have this knife in the StoneWorx series, this Canoe in the StoneWorx series. Then we also have the old Southwest Canoe. Are you seeing something here? A nice collection of canoes coming up too. The Arrowhead series canoe, hard to find these days. And if this is hard to find, this one's nearly impossible to find. And this is the Cherokee Feather series of canoe. And notice the turquoise in this one. This is I believe this is truly a reconstituted stone. And you see the green vein running in there, which is indicative of I believe, the Kingsman mine, turquoise. So this is a really pretty turquoise canoe. So you can see where I was going when I was picking up this StoneWorx series of knives. And the fact that we started with turquoise, a little bit of turquoise, and now no turquoise. You can see a little bit of my disappointment in what happened here. But still, really cool knife, and a great addition to the StoneWorx line, as well as my old Southwest style of canoes. just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.